Amazing. All right. So I think we can get started now. Awesome. While others join, and if we have anyone that needs the link, I think they will be able to get it. All right. So I, Anulapo, I actually went through the form you submitted, and I would like to know if you're currently a founder of any startup.
No, no, not yet, but I'm just here to learn. Not yet, I'm just here to learn.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So I think most of the people that registered for the webinar, they are literally majorly on like the basic level. So I wanted to do something deep and sophisticated, but I had to just like, okay, let me just calm down and bring it to everyone's level. Most of them, most of the registered participants are looking for how to start, how to get started in SaaS. So I think we can actually find value in that, like through this webinar. So let me just quickly share my screen and then we get started. Please confirm you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see it.
Amazing. Okay. So Anu, let me just for short, let me say Anu, thanks for joining, and it's a pleasure having you here. And while we wait for others, I think we'll just get started. They can always go back to the recording. So if you're conversant with the letters I've been sharing, my style of newsletter and education, I've been talking about moving from a tourist to an architect. So, a tourist is someone that is not stable, that person is actually new. That person is moving from one place to another. So you're moving from one business to another. You're not stable. An architect is actually someone that actually sits down to draw a plan and then see it through till that plan becomes a reality. And that is the essence of what I am actually championing in terms of startup growth OS. I noticed that a lot of founders, when they want to start their SaaS, the major problem they have is actually distribution. It's with the help of vibe coding right now. You see a lot of founders out there like vibe coding their SaaS in 2 months, 1 month, and then they're stuck. So the bad thing about that is that they build like 10 startups or five, and then each of them either they make $50 or $200, and then they shut it down saying this idea is not working. But that means if you get the concept now, that means they are what we call like the people we call tourists. They jumped from one solution to another. They jump from one SaaS to another, trying to build different things without understanding the architecture behind building a SaaS that actually succeed. And that is what we're going to be breaking down in this webinar: how to actually build a SaaS that will succeed, that will actually get out there, and a SaaS that will be a success. So that is the essence of this. This is the essence of this webinar. So first, I would like to just break down some rules, and then this webinar is going to take a while. So I will need three things from you. So first, your attention. If you multitask, you will miss the nuance. You will miss the essence of this webinar. If you're someone that multitasks, you're probably shifting between different applications or you're probably scrolling on your phone right now. You will miss this the essence of this webinar. So I'm requesting for your attention till the end of this webinar so that you get the value out of this. This is not something you actually get on YouTube or you get elsewhere. It's something that was derived from different knowledge and insight was drawn from it. You get to understand better once we start. So the second one is implementation. Don't just take notes. So I'm still saying take notes, but don't just take notes. You have to decide right now that you will execute what I will show you today. So that's what I'm asking. Implementation. A lot of people they stay stuck at learning without actually implementing, and that is a problem. Then the brutal honesty again is you have to admit where you are broken. Like you have to admit the level at which you are. And from the form that most of the participants feel that I know the level at which they are currently. So you want to know like who am I? My name is Sam Femi, short for Samuel Femi. I've been a creative right from for over let's say 10 years, over 10 years now. So when I say I've been a creative, I've been a designer. I've worked as a graphic designer. I learned product design, worked learned product management. So when it comes to marketing also, I've also done marketing. So the essence of me putting all those together is because I've gained experience from all around when it comes to working with developers, building a startup, building a SaaS, understanding the core concept of building a SaaS. I've been there. I've worked with everyone. I've worked in as in the marketing front. I've worked in the content front. I've worked in the ads front, like generating leads. I've worked in different angles of a startup. So and then when it now the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is I thought of how can I bring everything together to help startups, to help SaaS founders to succeed. And then that's why it's you see I do put the startup growth architect as my name. So bringing everything together, all the experience, I think that's why I call myself an architect, to helping founders to actually build what will scale their startup. And that is why I call it the Startup Growth OS. So I took those principles and then I built the Startup Growth OS, where I will help founders to actually help them to get the right idea, validate the right idea, build the right idea, and scale the idea. So when you look at companies like Slack, they didn't just grow by cold calling, they grew by actually measuring the active teams. I've shared the story in my newsletter. When you look, where a lot of founders now, they measure sign-ups, which is wrong, instead of measuring the actual thing that will make the startup to succeed. So they measure the specific unit economic metric that predicted survival. When you look at Dropbox, they ignore the cost per lead trap. A lot of things might be new to you. And then they built a referral loop that actually gave a negative CAC. When we look at HubSpot also, they didn't just blog, they built a content engine. When we talk about content engine now, they treated every article like a software asset. So these companies, they didn't just eat 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, not because they were lucky, or because they treated growth as an engineering problem. So when we say an engineering problem is you don't just leave your growth to chance. You don't leave your growth in the hands of a novice. You don't focus on just building alone. There is an engineering behind growth. when they say something is not rocket science, actually, growth of a startup is rocket science. It's something that requires thinking, it requires planning, it requires engineering. That's why some people we call them sales engineer. So if you're stuck at whatever level you are, it's not because mostly because your product is bad. It's because your growth architecture is broken. So first, we need to talk about the identity shift. So we have a lot to, like I said, to cover. So I will try as much as possible to break them down. So the first thing you need to understand is every startup starts at default dead. When I say default dead, now I'm talking about where you they are playing safe. As long as they are paying the bills, they have a small team, they're actually in the kill zone. Anything can happen and then they are dead. They can shut down. So at this size, where people, I know a lot of people, let's say like most of the participants, someone that registered said is just starting and then is looking for how to plan things. So at that level, is that person is actually at level zero. But if you are at probably 300K, like $300,000 annual recurring revenue, then you are still at actual default debt, because at one point in time that revenue will drop to zero, and then one recession can kill you. One competitor raising a series A can kill you and take all the market. One key employee leaving you can kill you, and then everything relying on that employee will go to zero. The linear mechanics. Now, when we talk about identity shift, now you have to think big. And this the reason why I'm starting here is because when you sit on probably, oh, I want to make $10,000 per month in a year, you are thinking small. And the reason why I enjoy this is because when we talk about those that actually want to succeed in SaaS, you see them thinking of, oh, I want to build $1 billion company. Those are the kind of people that actually win, because if you're starting from there, like I want to build $1 billion company, then definitely you're going to start dreaming big from the onset. You're going to start thinking of, oh, what, like, who is the next hire for me that will actually get me to this dream? What are we building? What structures are we putting in place to actually get that? So the starting point, the identity is a great place to start. I'm still going to touch more about this when we move forward, when we come to the vision. So the quantum leap is what I'm asking, that every founder, every person that wants to build a SaaS, you have to take a quantum leap. You have to think big. So I set a framework saying, at least if you're starting, start with a mindset of probably $15 million annually. Like that's a better place to start than even in when you are in the six figures, seven figures. No, start with 15. That is the minimal. So when you see a linear growth, when something goes like this, it will get to a point where it will fall. But the exponential, if you're targeting 15, then you have the potential to scale past that and get to $1 billion valuation. So next, I think these are just things that we've treated. I don't want us to touch this. So let's just go to the basics. If we start dealing with this, I think most you might not like get it. So let me just take you to the basic, like the basics, where anyone can start from. Like if you're a beginner, if you're starting from level zero, this is the best place to start. And this is how to actually understand how to build a startup that actually sells itself, a startup that will easily scale itself, a startup that will actually succeed. So I said here, most founders try to build startup backwards. They start with a good idea, which is wrong. They sit in a room with whiteboard and brainstorm. They say, what if we made Uber for dog walkers? I think most founders they've abused the word Uber. Uber for this, Uber for that, Uber for this. What if we put the blockchain on a toaster? Imagine that. So most founders they start backwards. They start with a good idea, which is actually totally wrong. A good idea does not mean automatically mean your startup will succeed. They treat the startup idea like a lottery ticket. Okay, let's try this, let's try that, let's jump from this to that. They think if they just pick the right numbers, they will win. And this is why they fail. The $1 billion startup does not come from a good idea, it comes from judgment. I'm going to be breaking down judgment, and this is actually the essence of this training for someone that is just starting. Judgment. And judgment does not come from a whiteboard, it comes from specific evolution of the mind. You cannot build a unicorn until you have become the kind of person capable of seeing the unicorn. You're trying to paint the Mona Lisa, but you don't know how to hold a brush. Imagine that. So a lot of people that want to go into startup or SaaS or building a SaaS startup, they think I like they are flowing with ideas, or go to ChatGPT and say, "Oh, give me an idea," and then they start building, they start by coding. That is why they fail. To get a $1 billion startup idea, you need what we call judgment. And judgment don't come like it doesn't come as inspiration. It doesn't just come from the whiteboard, like sitting down and say, oh, I want to think of ideas now. Oh, this idea. That's why a lot of people are stuck. Let us look at the hierarchy of the mind. This is how the masters like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, TL, and also Benioff actually operate. Number one, the data, the noise. This is where you are now. You're drowning in data, probably tech cabal articles, TechCrunch articles. You're on Twitter threads, reading Twitter, reading YouTube idea. You love the idea of a SaaS. You love the idea of a startup. You're thinking of like the top 10 SaaS metrics. It is raw, unfiltered noise. The tourists consume data and thinks they are learning. They are not learning. They're just getting loud. Let's go to the next one, the information. Okay, now this is the next stage. Let's say probably you've been reading the newsletter and then you're enjoying it. That is you're not getting the real value from it. It means you're still at the level of the noise. When it start becoming information is when you start organizing the data. Like you start putting together all the knowledge you've been picking from this place to this place. You now know what CAC means. Probably you don't even know what CAC means. Probably you don't know the full meaning of, like I actually got someone that replied the newsletter and it said, I don't can you be explain like can you explain the full meaning of these terms you're using? Like I keep using terms like ARR, NRR, CAC, TTV, and all those terminologies. The person asked me to actually be like break it down further. That's the level at which that person is. You organize data, you now know what CSC means, you know what churn is. A lot of people don't even know what churn is. I was also sharing on Twitter, on X, just a few weeks back, and then someone said, "What is churn?" The person actually spelled it wrongly and say, "What is churn?" So you can label the part of the engine. Let's When we say label the part of the engine now, the growth engine, you know what churn is, you know what lead is, you know what lead generation is, but you don't know how to actually fix it. I call this the MBA trap. You have the vocabulary of a founder, but the instincts of a clerk. The next one is the part of knowledge, the application. Now we're getting somewhere. You have actually built something. Maybe you have deployed a code, you've closed the sale, you know how to do something, maybe one thing, but you don't know which thing to do. This is the part of a lot of founders. They have the knowledge. Probably they are developers they've worked as a marketer before. They've worked in the field of probably tech before. They've worked in a startup before. They understand these things. They know what to do. Probably they've actually run, like maybe you've run ads before, or you've actually coded before a website. You've built a WordPress website. You know what to do. Maybe let's say now, let me use this what I wrote. You are a soldier who knows how to shoot gun, but you don't know where the war is. So you know a few things, but you don't know like the big picture, like where to pick the big ideas from. And this takes us to the next stage, which is the wisdom. This is rare, and the wisdom is the synthesis. Wisdom is the ability to connect the unconnected dots. It's realizing that the rise of remote work, trend A, and the collapse of third party cookies, trend B, creates a specific terrifying opening for a new type of community software. Wisdom is seeing the matrix. The rise of remote work and the collapse of third party cookies creates a this is where you start like, oh, this and this, when we bring it together, we can actually build something to solve this problem. Oh, you start connecting dots, you start seeing like like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Matrix. You start understanding like a lot of things that are flowing at the same time. At the current stage at which we are right now, you understand, you get what AI agent is all about, what people are actually building, and what will happen the next. Like you have insights. This is where wisdom comes into it. Like probably I wrote a little article about ChatGPT ads. That is wisdom, picking something out of that. So a normal person would just say, "Oh, ChatGPT ad." What will come out of that? They don't know. But when you get to the level of wisdom synthesis, you see the big picture. You know that the next stage of startup building is where one person can actually build a startup that will scale to $1 million per month. That is what the next stage is. And how can one person scale, like a one person business scale to that level? It's through AI agents and having access to AI agents that can actually build everything from scratch till the point of delivering the service to the customer without you lifting like probably lifting any finger. That is the next level. The $1 billion startup with one person. So the next and what we're here for is judgment. This is the summit. This is a sovereign mind. Judgment is the ability to be right when someone else is wrong. Judgment is the ability to look at a market that looks healthy and says this is rotting from the inside. Judgment is the ability to bet the farm on a truth that is invisible to the masses. Before you get to the point of judgment, you are actually working with, like, you're thinking in terms of, oh, this is what will happen in the next 5 years. This is what will happen in the next 10 years. You don't just get here by reading, you don't get here by studying, you'll get there by actually having a skin in the game, by actually putting in the effort and making sure that you've actually worked to this extent. Let's look at a story. I like using stories. Let's look at Mark Benioff in 1999. He was a top executive at Oracle. He was rich, he was safe. The entire world ran an on-premise software. You bought a CD-ROM, you add consultants, you install it on a server and in your basement. That was the way. Everyone said that in the internet is for pets.com. Like, it's too slow for serious business software. That security is impossible. That no CEO will put their data in the cloud. That was the information at the time. But Benioff had a judgment. He had a judgment. Like, when everybody is pointing towards right, and then but you see what will happen in the future. You know that this is the right thing to do. It's like Elon Musk saying, "Oh, we are going to Mars." I don't think that's actually even the best example for it. It's like Jeff Bezos back then when Amazon was still very small at his basement, him seeing the level at which people will be buying stuffs right from that stage, that people will order things online, that people will order books online. Like, you seeing a different part from others, you being able to pick that judgment, that's the only way you can actually get $1 billion idea. So he synthesized the trend. That's the guy. He saw that Amazon was making the consumer web easy. He saw that IT departments were drowning in maintenance costs. He saw the bleeding neck of the software industry. He made a judgment call: the end of software. He didn't just build a CRM, he actually led a crusade for the very model of software delivery. He bet his career on that idea, and that software will be utility like electricity. And he was right. The world was wrong. That is judgment. Judgment is seeing what will actually happen. So, the lesson from what we've been discussing so far is you need judgment. As a person that is starting, you want to build a SaaS, you want to scale to 1 billion, you want to scale to $10 million, you actually need judgment. You have to see what others are not seeing. You don't just build a SaaS or a startup from an idea you got probably when sleeping or lying down. If you've not gotten to the level of judgment, you need to get to this level before you can pick the right idea. And you can't even get judgment from watching it, like one single YouTube video, or you picking an idea from a Y Combinator's channel. So how do you build judgment? Number one, extreme exposure. You must be in the trenches of the industry. You must feel the pain personally. I think Paul Graham wrote about this when he said, um, when Mark Zuckerberg was actually building a startup, Mark Zuckerberg was actually solving a problem for his school at that time. So the pain has to be personal. You have to understand the industry. You have to be inside the problem. You have to be inside the industry. You have to understand what is going on. That's for the industry that you want to solve the problem for. You have to be there, understand what they feel, understand the pain personally, and it's something that you've experienced. So, number two, historical analysis. You have to study the pattern of past companies, what makes them like, what made them tick, what made them succeed, what made them fail, what shifted in 2008, what shifted in 2020, what shifted in 2025, what shifted in 2024. So you have to look back at these things. You have to think from a larger scope. You have to be you need to get to the level where you can pick information from the past and pick the current information and see what will happen in 10 years time. And the reason why this the startup growth OS like Seamless Life is here is because we're going to get to the level what I actually saw. We're going to get to a level where startups will be merged, AI agents will be merged. But for you to stand out, for you to actually grow your startup, you will need to understand like it's that will be the bottleneck. Building will be very easy. Like you can wake up and just speak to AI to develop something for you, and it will. But getting that software, that SaaS to the masses, to the world, that will be the bottleneck. So the third one is contrarian thinking. What is the one thing everyone in your industry believe is true that you know is false? This is where you start thinking like, oh, you start seeing things differently. What you can predict that, oh, this startup, it will fail in 2 years time. They are building the wrong thing. Oh, this startup cannot succeed. Oh, this startup cannot scale to 1 billion. It can never scale to 1 billion. That's when the contrarian thinking comes from. So I think before I continue, I would just like to ask if you have any question.
I don't have any question for you.
All right. So let's keep going. So you can see we have data, we have information, we have knowledge. Like you have to move from these levels. You can't just jump to judgment. And before you are able to build $1 billion startup or get the idea that will scale to that level, you need judgment. You need judgment. You can't do that from data. You can't do that from asking ChatGPT. You can't do that from checking blog sites. You can't do that from watching YouTube videos. You have to move from data to information, from information to knowledge, from knowledge to wisdom, and then judgment. You can see it's when you get to judgment that you now get the vision clearly. That's the point where the vision becomes clear on what to build, the problem to solve, the kind of problem to solve, what to neglect, what to do, and what not to do. That is the point of vision. And you can only get that by attaining the point of judgment. Okay, let's move. Once you have judgment, you do not look for ideas, you look for anomalies. I think I didn't pronounce that right. You look for broken
I
things, you
cannot see
look
your
for
screen.
problems.
Sorry, I cannot see your
Hello?
screen again. I cannot see your screen again.
Okay, it's actually showing from my end. Let me reshare that quickly. How about now? Can you see it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Awesome. So once you have judgment, you do not look for ideas. You look for broken things. You look for problems. So when you've attained the level of judgment, you start looking for problems. But here is where the tourists get killed. The tourists, they solve annoyances. The architect, they solve hemorrhages. Let me explain the difference. Annoyance, the mosquito bite, and they also call it the vitamin problem. They call it the vitamin problem. Let's say it takes 5 clicks to export this report, and you wish it took 2 clicks. Imagine like probably you're working in a company and then it took 5 clicks to export a report, and then you think, oh, why not let's make this in 2 clicks or 1 click. That is an annoyance problem. It is irritating, but nobody wakes up at 3 a.m. sweating about it. Nobody gets fired because the report took 5 clicks. If you build a SaaS to fix this, people will say, oh, that's okay. It's okay. Thank you for building that. They might even sign up for a free trial, but they will never pay you. No company will pay you for building something that solves 5 clicks to 2 clicks. That is the problem with a lot of SaaS currently. You see someone building things that actually they are vitamin problems. They are like, well, let's say you need doctor says you take vitamin C. Vitamin C is taken when it's not like for a serious probably headache. No, you can't take that for headache. You can't take that for body pain or let's say malaria. So you have to move to the bleeding neck problem. Like when we say bleeding neck problem, let's say a company is losing 30% of their leads because their response time is too slow. My developers are spending 20 hours fixing a server configuration instead of writing code. That's a problem. Imagine they are spending 20 hours fixing a server configuration instead of writing code. Another one, I cannot close my books because the data from Stripe and the bank doesn't match and the IRS is coming. Imagine for the accounting part, like probably the data from Stripe and bank, they are not matching, and you can build a software that can solve that problem, because this problem can actually cause them to probably lose a license or get the founder in prison. So this is a problem that will keep the founder awake. This is a kind of problem that was, oh, they can pay any amount to fix. That's the way you should think. What is the problem that, oh, well, it's keeping the founder up at night? What is the not founder, the user of the SaaS I want to build? What is the problem that is keeping them awake up till now? Next, this is panic. This is air on fire. Like when we talk about this kind of problem now, when someone has a bleeding neck, they do not care about your logo. They do not care about your UI. They do not care if your code is messy. They only care about one thing. Can you stop the bleeding? If your solution can solve the problem, like the bleeding problem, then they will actually jump on it. The reason why a lot of people jumped on Google is because it solved a bleeding problem. Like a lot of people cannot go about their day without Google, like Google search. Google Map also. A lot of people, some people can't even do without Google Map. It's a bleeding problem currently. Let's say Google search or let's say Google search and chat GPT goes off now. Like we can access it for 1 month. There will be a lot of problem. Let me think of another problem. Let's say the banking system, OP, actually shuts down. A lot of people will be in trouble. So, but let me pick a vitamin problem now. If my gym application does not open today or for 1 week, I'll just for someone that probably someone that is not into like fitness, they can drop it. They can say, "Oh, it's not a problem." They'll just uninstall it. They can actually exercise without it. So you have to see the difference between solving a vitamin problem and solving a bleeding neck problem. What kind of problem can you solve that is a bleeding neck problem? If you stop the bleeding, they will give you their credit card. They will give you their firstborn. So they will definitely give you their firstborn as a gift. So let's talk about Slack. Do you know how Slack started? It wasn't supposed to be a chat app. Stewart was trying to build a video game called Glitch. He raised millions. He hired the best artist. He built a beautiful world and it failed. The game wasn't fun. The users didn't stick. It was a disaster. But inside the company, like inside his own company, they had a problem. They had developers in Vancouver, artists in San Francisco, and managers in New York. The problem was email was too slow. Imagine back then without Slack, when workers are communicating like they want to chat, they needed something different from email, something more official that a lot of people like. They don't want even like for me, I don't want to even mix business with WhatsApp. WhatsApp is more like a social app. So they knew that email was too slow for them to connect with all the staff. It was too ugly and didn't save history. It was just thread upon thread. They were bleeding in efficiency. They couldn't coordinate themselves. So what did they do? They built a messy little internal tool to chat. It had archive, it had search, it was ugly, but it stopped the bleeding. Eventually, Butterfield realized the game was dead. He looked at the internal tool. He used his judgment. He realized that every company on earth has this bleeding neck. Email is killing productivity. For me, most times I even check Slack before I check my email. So he killed the game. He pivoted to a tool. He launched Slack. He didn't sell chat. He sold the end of email. He found a problem by living through it. He validated it by using it. So your mandate now as someone that is an architect is to stop asking users, what features do you want? You should start asking, where are they bleeding? Where are you bleeding? What is the line item on your P&L, your profit and loss, that you hate the most? What is the tax that makes your best employee threaten to quit? What is the tax that makes your best employee threaten to quit? Imagine in a company that probably makes $100 million, and then they have a staff that probably a lot of things are just dependent on that staff. Imagine you can build a software that will eradicate that bottleneck and save the company that risk. They'll pay you anything for that software. So find the pain, ignore the pleasure. We're moving. The tourist problem from this image. Sorry about that. The tourist problem from this image, you can see that the tourist problem is nice to have. From the picture, you see the picture of a mosquito bite. Oh, this is not a problem. But the architect's problem is this is a must have. If we don't solve this problem, we are going to be dead in 5 years, in 2 years, in one year. So this is the kind of problem you should be looking for, problem that people are ready to pay you for. Not the problems that anyone can solve. When you look at problems, the reason why a lot of startups go bankrupt is because Google can come and say, oh, we are building one feature, and that one feature is your startup. Imagine that. And then everything that you've built is gone to waste. An example is what's this thing called? I knew someone that built a diary app, and then Google launched Keep Notes and also Google Doc, and then a lot of people dropped that diary app and then moved to Google because it was like people were already on Google. So why should I be moving from one app to another when I can have everything on Google? So you have to look for a problem that is actually a bleeding neck problem that people are ready to pay. They have the money in their hand to actually pay you for. And then, but you cannot achieve this level, or you cannot see this kind of problem without having judgment. So let's still remember that judgment is the starting point. So after you found the problem, what's next? The validation. You have the judgment, you found the bleeding neck. Let's say you found the problem. Now the tourist makes the fatal mistake. The tourist goes into a cave for 6 months to build the MVP. They hire developers, they design a logo, they incorporate the company, they write code day and night. They emerge from the cave, pale and exhausted, holding their masterpiece, and the market says, what? What did you build? We don't need that. So it's like two-factor authentication for you as an architect. It's not enough for you to just know the problem and then start building it immediately. So let's say the people just went silent, nobody cares, nobody buys, the solution is wrong, or the positioning was wrong, or the market didn't just trust them. They just burned 100,000 and 6 months of life on hallucination. So what is the architect's protocol? This is actually different. Number one, code is expensive, copy is cheap. Rule two, validation is not interest. Validation is transaction. Let me explain this now. Validation, to validate the problem that you've just like found out, like the bottleneck problem, it is not like people saying, oh, we need it, oh, we need it. No, 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 that's not validation. Then you go and build. No. Validation is when they actually pay. So you do not build, you sell. Once you've seen the problem and you've seen someone that has that problem, what you can construct is a ghost offer. You build a landing page, you write a manifesto, you create a video, a VSL that explain exactly how they will stop the bleeding, and then you ask them to pay. You can ask on email a commitment. That's the word, commitment. Tell them to commit that, oh, if I build a solution, will you pay once it solved this problem? I watched the documentary of Money Point recently, and then their first customer, that man, he said something that he was anticipating their solution. He was waiting for it because of the promise they made him. Like they went to meet him and they told him, we're going to deliver 24 hours remittance, instant remittance to you. And he said he was waiting for them. He was waiting to try their solution. That is the kind of commitment you want from your first customer. Like they already had the customer before they actually built it. If you understood the story very well, the man was actually waiting for the solution to come. They saw the problem, they met the customer, the person that actually needs the solution, and they said, oh, we're going to build a solution for you. Do you want it? The man said, oh, I need it. I'm waiting for it. And when they built it, they actually went to him with a solution, and he was like, he would gladly try it and pay and use it. So that's the way to go. Don't get the idea or the problem and then start building without getting your users to commit by paying or by saying they will use it, by committing to using your product. If you cannot get 100 people to join a wait list or 10 people to prepay, you do not have a business. You have a delusion. It is better to fail on a landing page in 24 hours than to fail in code after 6 months. I hope this is clear. This is very important. Let's talk about the Dropbox lie. The founder of Dropbox had a problem, a personal problem. He wanted to build a file syncing, but it was technically impossible. It required hacking the Windows kernel. It was going to take a year of engineering just to get a prototype. VCs told him this, there are already 100 cloud storage apps. Why do we need another one? He couldn't build it to prove them wrong. It would take too long. So he lied, sort of. He made a video. It was a screencast of a prototype that barely worked. It was mostly smoke and mirrors, but in the video, he showed the magic. He dragged a file into a folder and it appeared on the web. He made jokes in the video that only engineers will get. He posted the video on Aka News titled, My YC app, Dropbox, throw away your USB drive. He didn't have the product, he had a video. He went to bed. When he woke up, his waiting list had gone from 5,000 to 75,000 people. That's validation that, oh, we really need this. This is what we need. So with this, like this validation, this person now can go ahead and build the solution. Let's run. So he validated the problem, USB drive sucks. And then the solution, the magic syncing without writing the production code. He sold the vision, then he built the reality. He sold the vision, then he built the reality. You have to sell the problem before you start building. A lot of founders, they build first before selling it. Without demand, you don't need to build. But once you start getting demand, then you can build. So let's just move to the next one. The building. So we've talked about the first thing, having judgment. The second one, finding the problem, the bottleneck. The third one, validation. And then next, once you've validated it, you can now start building. You have sold a ghost offer. You have a list of 100 people screaming, take my money, we need this product. Then now you have to deliver. This is where you start building. The tourist panics, they rush to build everything. No, you don't build everything. They look at the feature list of their billion-dollar competitor and try to copy it in 3 months. They build a login system, a dashboard, a dark mode, multi-language support, and an affiliate program. That's wrong. They build a feature factory, and when they launch, they fail because they built a product, but they didn't build a solution. Hmm. They built a product, but they didn't build a solution. A lot of founders, they jump into building a product. They want everything to be fine. They want everything to be look like to have 100 features to solve 100 problems. No, they built a Swiss Army knife. If you know a Swiss Army knife, it can do like maybe 10 things or 50 things at the same time. Like you can use it to do different things. When the customer needed a scalpel, the architect builds differently. The architect understands that product market fit is not a feeling, it is not magic, it is an equation. And like any equation, it can be solved if you isolate the variables. Let's look at this guy, Raul, the founder of Superhuman. The $30 month email client did not rely on luck. He treated PMF as a math problem. Most founders launch, look at retention, see it low, and cry, oh, but this guy didn't launch. He onboarded users one by one and he asked them 4 specific questions. The most important one was this: how would you feel if you could no longer use our software? A, very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, not disappointed. This is the Sean Ellis test. If less than 40% of your users say they are very disappointed, you do not have PMF, you are dead. You don't need to scale. Do not buy ads, do not hire sales rep. If you scale before 40%, you're just pouring water into a bucket with no bottom. So before I go further, let me break this down properly. So when we talk about building now, a lot of founders, once they found a problem and then they validated it, they want to actually build the next like $1 billion company. You can't start from that level. Your job is just to solve that one problem that you found out. And if one feature can solve that problem, you should solve it with the simplest feature as simple as possible. This is the secret to $1 billion startups. Example of them like Google search. They have just one feature. When you go to Google search now, they have just one feature where you just type in and then you search and you see the things that you're searching for. When you go to ChatGPT, they have just one feature. You chat, you interact with just one thing. Then they started adding more things later after they've solved that one problem. So you need to think in that regard. Like, how can you solve the bleeding neck problem using just one feature in the simplest way as possible before you start thinking of even scaling, before you start thinking of getting the user, the product, the solution to the public. So the iteration loop, this is what you do. Who are the people who said very disappointed? These are your high expectation customers. Who are the people who said not disappointed? Ignore them. They are the wrong customers. They will distract you with bad feature requests. So this is, we're not getting deeper. This is the point where you start looking for product market fit, PMF. You start looking at, oh, am I solving the right problem? Like people that said, oh, they'll be very disappointed. That means they really love our solution. These are our real customers. Those that will not be disappointed if our software goes away, we need to ignore them. Even though when they ask for new features, we ignore them. Those, why do they high expectation, like customer love us? Is it the speed? Is it the shortcuts? You need to understand why they really love using the software. Then you now double down. You build only what makes the high expectation customers love you more. You double down to make what they love perfect. So you do not build for everyone, you build for the fanatics, those that really, really love you. The architect is ruthless. They delete features that the fanatics don't use. They fire customers who are lukewarm. They focus the product until it is laser beam and cuts through one specific problem for one specific person. PMF is not about adding more, it is about stripping away everything that is not the core value. Now, after you've gained PMF, like you know, oh, we've done it. When Money Point realized that they've done it, that is when they now started scaling their distribution. They started making more POS, like getting POS to hundred of users, like millions of users. They started taking more transaction. They were talking about moving from 0 to 100, from 100. They started calculating it every day. That's when they've hit PMF. This is the point where you start scaling your engine. And this is the point of distribution. A lot of user founders, they want to jump to distribution immediately, and that's the problem. And how can you gain distribution? It's either by owned attention versus rented attention. We're almost done. I'm just trying to wrap up as soon as possible. Owned attention versus rented attention. Okay, you have the product now. You have the fanatics that love it. You've hit the 40% benchmark. Now and only now do you turn on the gas. This is when you want 100, like 1 million people to come on your product. The Tory thinks marketing means buying ads. So they go to Facebook, they pay Google, they pay $5 per click. They get a customer for $100. This works for a while. Then the platform changes the algorithm, or the price ads goes up, or a competitor outbids them. Suddenly their CAC doubles, their margins vanish, they die. Buying ads is rented attention. You are a tenant farmer on Mark Zuckerberg's land. He can evict you at any time. He can shut down your ads. He can block your account and all that. The architect actually builds owned attention. And how can you build own attention? We're going to talk about that. In 2006, marketing was outbound. You bought leads, you cold called, you bought billboard. But HubSpot didn't just build marketing software. They invented a philosophy, inbound marketing. They didn't just buy ads, they bought the dictionary. They wrote thousands of blog posts answering every single question a marketer could ever have. How to write a subject line, what is SEO, best time to post on Twitter. If you search anything regarding marketing on HubSpot, they have it. So they built a media company, and this is the next level. Every startup company must become a media company that happen to sell software. So they own the attention. When they launch a new product, they didn't have to pay to tell people. They just sent an email. Their CAC dropped to near zero over time, while their competitors' CAC skyrocket. So we have the story of the Salesforce also. It generated controversy. So, for an architect, what is the distribution matrix? You must choose your weapon. Is it inbound, content and SEO? Slow burn is very slow, but infinite leverage. Outbound, sales signal, fast burn, high precision. Viral, product leg, the product spell spread itself. All these things, like, they are actually deep on their own. Like, this is a different webinar on its own, like a different webinar. Each of the things that was spoken on this call, on this webinar, they are like, we can treat vision like on its own. We can treat problem on its own. We can treat each of it like for 2 hours, 3 hours. This distribution alone, scaling, it's a different, and like a different course on its own. So you cannot do all three. You must pick one. You must master it. You must build a system that generates attention while you sleep. If you rely on founders' charisma to get every sale, you are not a CEO. You're a traveling salesman. All right. So the sales engineer, you have the attention, you have the product, but attention does not pay the bills. Revenue pays the bills. This is the final value of debt. The founder who refuses to sell, I'm a builder, you say, I don't like sales, it feels sleazy. Get over it. Sales is not manipulation, sales is leadership. Sales is leading a prospect from a state of confusion to a state of clarity, a state of belief in you, your problem, your solution. If you truly believe your product solves a bleeding neck problem, then refusing to sell it is an act of cowardice. You are letting the customer bleed because you are too polite to offer the band-aid. So you need to become a sales engineer. Like, a sales engineer is someone that actually develops funnels. Like, they build the sales process, they build the stage by stage. And this is where mostly I think a lot of founders have problem building, engineering the growth of their startup, their SaaS, like putting everything we've discussed together. And now when it comes to the sales engineering, they find it difficult to build the sales structure. What will come first? Should we probably take credit card before they sign up, or we should give them freemium, or we should give them free trial? Should it be freemium and premium? Should it be free trial? Should it be should we ask them to pay before they use it? These are things that you need to know why and what to do. And this is the work of an engineer. So the engineer diagnose, where does it hurt? How much is it costing you? What happens if we don't fix it? It then prescribe based on what you said. Here is the solution. It costs you 10K. It saves you 100K. Do you want? So this is what the sales engineer does. They look at your problem and then they build a structure to solve it. So the sales process also is a different one, where they will also build a sales process, the script you use on the discovery call, automate the follow-up. These are things that are like, you need to build a sales process where you start looking at the funnel, where are they starting from and where will they end. So these are things that you need to actually build. So we've walked through the part, like we'll talk about judgment, becoming the person who sees the invisible. We'll talk about hunting the bleeding neck. We'll talk about validation, selling the ghosts. We'll talk about engineering PMF with math. We'll talk about scaling, like building the fortress of the own attention. We'll talk about the moral obligation to close, to actually sell. You now have the map, but a map is not a vehicle. Knowing what to do is easy. Doing it day after day in the face of rejection, chaos, and doubt is hard. You can try to do this alone. You can be a tinkerer. I love using tinkerer or tourist. piecing together advice from Twitter thread and YouTube video, or you can get a partnership. And this is where I come in with a startup growth OS. And this is what I do. I provide a judgment. I review your market, your problem, your positioning. I tell you if you're hunting a mosquito or you have a bleeding neck problem. I engineer the validation. We build the ghost offer together. We run the traffic. We prove the demand before you even write a single line of code. I architect the sale. I help you choose your distribution weapon, your inbound versus outbound, and then I build a system for you. And not just that, you get to join other founders also on this mission. So you're not just doing it alone, you are with people that are also building things. And then you get to learn from them, you get to ask questions, you get to also share ideas. So this is what I'm offering. And this is what I've been talking about when I say it in my newsletter that you should apply to the Startup Growth OS, where I get to help you to build everything, to do everything when it comes to actually scaling or building or developing your startup to that level. So if you want to apply to the Startup Growth OS, you can actually talk to me. There's a link for you to fill. Then we'll check the level at which you are currently, and if you're actually ready to get to the level of building that SaaS company. So I'll drop the link in the comment or probably in the description. You can also get the link on my newsletter, definitely. So whenever you're ready, you jump on the call with me, and then we get to look through what we can do to scale you up, to get your startup from default dead to the level where you will start making sales, and then start thinking of getting to the start, let's say starting with the $15 million level, and then let's say getting to 1 billion. So I'll provide a judgment for you, engineer the validation, architect the skill, and then build the war room where you get to meet other founders. So right now we have Q&A. So we just take the Q&A and then we'll wrap up. So it's been probably close to 2 hours now. We've been on the call. So I'll just take Q&A so that we wrap up. If you have any questions from all we've discussed. So I think probably in the next webinar, I can start breaking each of those things down, starting from the top, breaking it down properly. Like I said, a lot of founders they wait, like, how will I put it now? They are probably in the level of data, noise, or information, and then they want to actually figure it out on their own. Like, oh, don't worry, I'll watch YouTube videos, I'll read articles, but this thing is something that it will take years for you to get to judgment, like years. And the reason why I'm building Startup Growth OS is so that we can cut the time. Instead of waiting for years, trying, failing, building, jumping from one SaaS to another, starting different software, wasting money, wasting years of building, we can actually help you to get to your desired goal. So let me just take questions. I don't know if you have any question. Hi, Anu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I have no question. All I can say is when I'm ready, I would contact you. And if I know someone that is interested in starting up their SaaS, I would just, ask them to contact you.
All right, all right. So you don't have any question, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So, but what were you able to pick like from what we've discussed today? Like, were you able to like what was your experience? What are we able to gain a new knowledge or new information you like better than like when you joined?
Yes, yes, yes. I always learn something from you because I'm always reading your
Sorry, I
mail
didn't get
actually.
that.
I think I'm always reading your mail, so I always learn something from you. And so yes, I learned some few things. Like I've always learned from your mail. Can you hear me?
Amazing. Yes, I can hear you. Amazing. It's good.
Okay.
I thank you for sharing that. I love that you've been reading my mail. Actually, I just actually like removed close to 3,000 people from my newsletter. Like most people, if you don't open my mails, I actually remove them, and that is the like it's just for those that are actually serious, and it can get to that level. So like an extreme level of we don't want to deal with those that are just probably keeping the mails. I'll get back to it later. So, but I'm glad that you're getting value from the mail, and thank you for staying till now to the end of the call. I appreciate that. And then if you have any questions, probably after the call, or like you said, if you're interested in probably getting started, or you have anyone, then definitely you can reach out to me.
Okay. Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, and take care of yourself till the next time again.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye, Anna. All right, guys. So, like I said, if you want to join the Startup Growth OS, just check the description. You get the link to actually apply, and then we'll jump on a call with you, and then we get to know if you're a good fit, and then we'll see if we can work together. All right. Ciao.